Today I'm in a super interesting place and I'm here to share a blazer with you that's fully lined. In some ways the design is super simple, right up my alley. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing. I'm from a terrace rooftop in a hotel in a mystery European country right now, and I'm here to share all about a blazer, now about why I'm here and other things you'll see later on. So there's a lot of episodes that are very different coming up here at Lifting Pins and Needles. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out the fun, new, unique content from around Europe. But here I'm up on a Sunday, really early sunrise, amazing to share with you all about the Eddy Blazer cardigan from Friday Pattern Company. This is a pattern I sewed back in Brazil about a month before my trip, thinking it's going to be amazing because it'll be the in-between type of layer that is not the big down jacket parka that I'm wearing, and it's not something super light either. So it's in between for those days where it's not that freezing. So it's perfect. I've brought it along on my trip, and it's the only alternative I have to the puffer jacket, which is very practical. It achieves the purpose of keeping me warm, but let's be honest, I don't feel the best in it because it's not the style of jacket I usually wear. I don't find them aesthetically pleasing, but I do find this blazer super nice. If you look at the liner, you see that deep V. So it's simple in that way. It doesn't have a lapel. It's long line, streamlined. It hits at the fullest part of your hip or below your bottom, just depends on how tall you are. Got a rounded shape on the center front and a single button closure. There are shaping features here with waist darts, fisheye darts, both in the front and the back. There's a center back seam that's shaped. It's got a vent right there. Patch pockets on the front that are self-lined. The sleeve is a one-piece simple sleeve. There's no vent, nothing difficult about the sleeve right there. And the other detail about the Eddy Blazer is that it's fully lined. Now, I see this fully as a blazer. I'm not sure why the pattern is called a blazer cardigan, because in my view, it's not a cardigan at all. This is for woven fabrics, and I decided to make mine in 100% wool suiting material. I bought back in Chile last June when I went there. It was in the middle of winter in Chile, and I found an amazing quality wool that I bought. I had just enough to make this beautiful blazer. And then for the lining, I chose a cotton, 100% cotton shirting. So let me show you my fabric choices, and then we'll talk about other fabrics. I've chosen this 100% wool to make my blazer. I bought this one in Chile now in the winter. It's a brand from Chile that used to make these fabrics. They've since been out of business for many years, but you can still find cuts of fabrics in some shops. So I was super happy to find this. This is what it's called. Bella Vista Oveja Tomé. Oveja means sheep. When I was steaming this, I could smell the sheep. This is a type of weave that's super discreet. I don't think I need to match anything here because it's so small. So it'll be quite relaxing to cut out and just sew. Very nice. The weight I would say is medium weight. It's not the heaviest of wool. Perfect. And this is what I've chosen for the lining. These are cotton shirting, super lightweight. It's got some texture on it. It's not exactly the same on the right side than on the wrong side. So I think that's going to be easier for the tutorial. And this is going to be nice on the inside. It matches. It's nice and soft. It's very, very smooth type of cotton. So it's going to be slightly slippery, which is what you want. As usual, I prep my wool in a very simple way that's achievable at any home. I don't go deep into complicated methods. I don't take it to the dry cleaners. I just ignore that. And I just steam my wool on my ironing board a lot. So I'm full of water and I'm just steaming, and I'm not touching the metal of the iron to the fabric. So I'm just hovering and steaming across the whole fabric. And then I just lay it flat on my table to just dry, to get that steam to dry off. Happens quickly. And then I'm happy I've sort of pre-shrunk it and pre-treated it so that I can go ahead and sew. So it's recommended that you use a medium to heavyweight fabric. I would use 100% linen if I wanted a jacket for hotter weather. Corduroy would be amazing. Denim, cotton twill, cotton sateen. Maybe even a non-stretch velvet, the typical velvet. You just have to be careful about the nap. The wool suiting, of course, would be amazing. And then for lining, it's always recommended that it's something slippery. And I used to think that, and I used to sew like that in the past. I used to use usually polyester saddle lining, which can tend to be hot and sticky. Yes, it's yes, it's slippery, but I think it sometimes ruins the garment if you used a really good material on the outside, like 100% wool, to throw in some polyester in the lining. So I don't do that anymore. I wouldn't use silk, 100% silk, although it's ideal. I just can't do it because of the cost. I just can't get myself to buy expensive silk and put it inside something where no one's going to see it. But that's just what I think about lining. For me, it's a functional thing. It's not a beauty thing. So at present, my favorite fabrics for lining are really lightweight cottons. I just love it. They feel amazing. The cotton with the wool goes perfectly. I tend to stick to that choice. For a long time already, I haven't been using the slippery fabrics on the lining. And the other plus there about using a lightweight cotton is that it's just so much easier to work with. Now, apart from the main fabric and your lining, you need one button, you need some interfacing for some areas, and I've done a lot of extra interfacing for my blazer because I want mine to last and to not stretch out. So I've stabilized my fabric quite a bit, which is what I would do with wool suiting to begin with anyway. I probably wouldn't go all in with the interfacing if I was using a corduroy or if I was using a denim, but for my wool fabric, 100%, it's welcome to use a lot of interfacing. Friday Pattern Company has sizing from extra small to 7X, and it states clearly there that it's drafted for a B cup. So I always knew I was going to do a full bust adjustment. And out of all the patterns I've sewn from Friday Pattern Company, I've done probably a full bust adjustment on most of them, which for me is super simple. I've done it so many times before. It's just a couple of cuts and lines. And once you do it a few times, you get really used to it and it's not hard. I have a full video showing you how to do it. So I always knew I was going to take this from a B to a C cup. That was going to generate a bust dart here, and I don't mind because if it's going to improve the fit, that bust dart can be pretty discreet there, especially with my fabric. You won't even know it's there. So that is something I was always going to do. I plotted my measurements there on the chart. In this chart, I am an extra large. I get about 3 inches of positive ease around the bust, around 7 at the waist, around 4.5 to 5 at the hips. I'm going to do a full bust adjustment that's going to add 1 extra inch. Half here, half there. So I get an extra inch of ease. I think that's fine because I was always wanting to wear something underneath that wasn't a cami, maybe a long sleeve thermal top or something like that, that was a little bit bulky, a little bit heavier. So quite happy with the ease that this blazer was going to have. Of course, I was going to do a non-wearable test garment. I chose a horrible fabric from my stash that is a woven that doesn't stretch so I could see what I needed to see. So let me show you what I did with my non-wearable test garment that in my opinion was very, very helpful for me to figure out what I needed to do. For my quick test garment, I only cut out 3 pattern pieces, so this doesn't need to take up a lot of fabric or time. The wrong side is white. I have been able to mark everything here with a regular pen, my darts. On the side, there's a notch that matches the waist, matches the widest part of the dart as well. And I drew a line all the way across so I can see if the waist placement of the blazer matches mine. Here is my bust dart over here. So I'm going to be sewing this with black thread. I'm going to show it to you from the wrong side so you can really see what's going on. The back also has the dart right here. I've marked it. I've also done the horizontal line that matches the waist placement of the blazer. And I've done the original length. I'm going to figure out on the body if I want to make it shorter and how much. The sleeve, I have already lengthened it by 1 inch just because I measured it and I knew I had to do that. So we'll confirm that. And the other thing I want to check is the shoulder fit because with other patterns that I've sewn from this brand, I have had to do a narrow shoulder adjustment of 3/8. I don't see that being different with this one if they use the same block. So we'll see about the shoulder fit, the dart, where it's placed, the length, confirm the length of the sleeve, confirm the shoulder fit, all of that with this thing that I'm going to whip up super fast. Check it out. I look a little clownish with what I'm wearing and this on top, but I'm sort of happy with how it feels as I put it on here. I look at the shaping and I think everything's matching, but with all the print, you can't really see my darts, you can't see a thing. So I'm going to put it on this other way so that we can really see what's going on. I think that is much more helpful, but you can see the general fit here. I'm happy with the ease, happy with this button placement as well. This deep V neckline I think is really interesting. So yeah, but let's see the real thing. One thing I wanted to check was the fit of the shoulders. And as I suspected, we're hanging off a little bit there. So I definitely am going to bring it up by 3/8 right here just to have it fit a little better. This is drafted for a B cup, so it's not surprising that the shoulders are hanging a little bit low. Now, here is the mark of the buttonhole. I marked it on both so I can overlap it correctly. Remember, there's going to be a facing here. And I have also stay stitched right here so that this doesn't end up stretching out and gaping and skewing up the feet. This is the dart right here. This is the dart there. I think it's turned out perfect. I was so lucky to get it right on the first go, so I don't have to mess with it. Now there's a faint line all along that marks the waist of the blazer, and it's actually at my waist. This blazer is drafted for 5'6". I'm a bit taller, but my length actually comes from here down to the floor. Over here, I'm quite regular in the length, so that's why I think this is okay. At the back, we have these little waist studs, and I think they're correctly placed as well. I was willing to bring them up or down according to what I needed, but I don't actually need to do that right there. So this is a successful non-wearable test garment. Now, this up here is going to be the actual length of the blazer, which I think is okay. I thought it was going to be longer. So it's just at the full hip. It's just going to cover the bottom right there. I think this is okay. There are shorten and lengthen lines all the way across. So if you wanted yours an inch shorter or whatever, you could definitely just do it around those shorten and lengthen lines without skewing everything up. Remember, when you make length adjustments, you have to fix the lining and the facing as well because it affects everything. I sort of knew the things I needed to do, like the narrow shoulder adjustment. I have done that before with Friday Pattern Company. So if they use the same block, you usually find the adjustments to be similar to other patterns you've used from the brand. So that's just in my memory. So I did that 3/8 of an inch right there. I confirmed my dart placement that I generated with the full bust adjustment was correct. So that was good. The darts were correct. I could have moved them up and down. You know, I wanted to check the length of this blazer. You know, initially my first instinct was to shorten it a little bit, but it ended up being the right length for me. That is absolutely fine. And the length of my sleeve is a little longer, perfect length. So I knew I was ready to go to get up my 100% wool, which is irreplaceable. I can't get any more if I mess up. So I was super happy and confident to go ahead and sew the Eddy Blazer. Now I have the full sew along on my Patreon page. I have exclusive content there. It is a lot of work to produce that content. It is do post helpful content here as well about the blazer, full pattern review. And I'm going to show you about the pattern pieces, what I've interfaced, a few more details as well. This is my front piece. I mentioned I was going to interface the bottom part where the hem is going to be. The pattern suggests 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters, but I decided to go more and I just interfaced 4 inches. So if I take that pin off, you see that the bottom here is interfaced. This is tricot knee interfacing, which is a little softer. So I just cut long strips of that and interfaced all the bottom of this fabric area. I cut the fabric super straight along one of the lines of the weave, meaning for that to be the bottom of the blazer. So I've got my pattern piece right there on the edge at the bottom. So all that section is going to be interfaced. When I fold up my hem allowance, it's all going to be interfaced, and I think it's just going to make the jacket hang nicer and have better structure. So I've got that all the way across, including the back. Another thing I'm going to do, because I'm not interfacing the whole front, I would have liked to, I don't have enough interfacing for that. I'm going to interface this area right here. So what I did was just take my facing piece, which is basically the same shape right here, and I cut this interfacing from there, but I cut it a little bit bigger. So I use this piece, but I cut about 5/8 of an inch bigger right there because I'm going to interface this in stages. What I'm going to do is trim around here, the armhole up to here, and then over here I'm going to leave extra fabric. Then I'm going to head over to the iron and finish fusing the rest. Okay, I also want to interface the rest of this vent because it's partially interfaced at the hem area, but I want to interface all that red area that I drew right there. So a little above there, I want to catch that seam with that area being interfaced. So I just drew this here with this paper, but I drew it a little bigger, 5/8 of an inch bigger here. And then I have used this little template to cut interfacing right here. So the same as I'm going to do with the front, I'm not going to cut along the edge here. I'm going to leave it bigger here. And then for the rest, I'm going to trim along the edge of the paper. So that's the deal. Okay, so here's my front. I cut the armhole the same. I left extra fabric here on the top and all along this edge up to there. And now I have my interfacing piece that I'm going to bring in and fuse along the edge. I'm going to do this on both sides. So I'm keeping the paper here. I'm just going to fold it away as much as I need to be able to fuse this on. And this is just going to ensure that this doesn't stretch out. So this has the same shape because I use a good pattern piece for it. I'm going to do this on this side and then flip this and do it on the other side. And then I can finish cutting off this piece. So this is modified block fusing as I like to do. I don't want to cut my piece and then interface because it could end up shrinking all of this and then the garment pulls up at the center. So I'm not a fan of that. That's why I like doing this and leaving it big, interfacing a bigger area and then cutting the rest off. And you can see my pattern piece never left this place. I'm still going to keep the same shape and size as it's meant to be when you're following our sewing pattern. So the front was a little more complex because I wanted to interface all of this area plus the hem. So just this section is not interfaced. The area of the dart is not interfaced. For the back, it's going to be more simple because I'm just interfacing that vent area. So I'm going to do the same thing. It's just a smaller area. Here on the back, I cut everything normal, but here on the vent, I left extra 5/8 of an inch approximately right here. So I'm just going to push this back, get my little piece and align it right here. And then I'm going to flip and do the same. Once I'm done, then I can come back with a rotary cutter and cut that just like you saw me do on the front one. Here are the facing pieces, and these are the traditional block fusing, not the random ones that I was doing for hems. So this is the big front facing and the back facing, and it's just a little bit bigger than the pattern piece. It's already interfaced on both sides, and now it's just about cutting it all the way around. This is the front facing piece, and you can see how deep and how slanted this shape is. It can stretch out a lot. So I'm going to go the extra mile. On my main front piece, I'm going to stay stitch, but on this facing piece, I'm going to fuse the stay tape on. This stay tape has this cord in the middle and it's extremely firm. I could have done this on the main piece or the facing piece, but because when I sew this, I'm going to have the facing on top, I decided to make this the layer that's mostly stable. So keeping the same shape here, I'm just going to fuse this on as an extra layer so that this deeper V type of neckline stays extremely firm and sharp and it never stretches out. So I'm going to flip this and fuse on the other side as well. And then on the back facing piece, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to fuse along there, and that's going to make the back part super firm as well. Here are the main pieces for the Eddy Blazer: sleeve, back and front. My front partially interfaced there, and along the hem areas, 4 inches I decided to do, and I also wanted to interface the vent. It's a high stress area, and the more interfacing the better, at least for this type of fabric. You see these yellow dots I've drawn with chalk that comes out with heat, so they're not going to stay there, but at least I can see them. Luckily, the dots are one of the first steps. I would want to do that because I don't trust the markings are going to last that long. So it's the same here on the front. I've got the dots on the non-interfaced area, and there is the extra bust dart from the full bust adjustment. Here is the front facing, the back facing, and the pocket piece. The pocket is long because it's going to be self-lined. It's actually going to end up much smaller, and it's not interfaced. These are the lining pieces, the sleeve, the front, which is a little smaller. I have the dots, all the things marked right here. And the back is different for the left and the right. So there's different pattern pieces for each. You need to cut them individually. And what's really important is to place the fabric right sides up when you cut these two pieces so that they end up correct. You can see the differences in this area here for the vent. Up here, it's all the same. It's just this area is totally different. Here is my Eddy Blazer. I hope you can see it. I'm filming in a different camera. The sun is hitting my face at sunrise. But you can see this deep V right here. This is where I have the extra stay tape and extra interfacing in all of this area that was very important to me. And now this is extremely firm. Otherwise, this over time could have stretched out and started looking awful. So I'm very happy with that. I found one singular button from my stash right there. And The buttonhole is there. You know, the buttonhole, I made it right where the mark on the pattern is, but I wish I would have made it a little closer to the edge because I found that it's a little further off. You might see the detail when I wear it, but otherwise I can't go back in time now. There is my cotton fabric, the technique to line the vent. It's all in the instructions. I also showed it in detail in my sewing tutorial on Patreon. The sleeve was pretty simple and easy to set in. It's just one piece and it's lined on the inside as well. So nice. Back center seam, the vent, lots of darts I found amazing. If this blazer wouldn't have had the darts, I don't think I would have chosen it to sew because I like things to have a little bit of shape. And this is a nice loose garment that I can dress up and down. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to show it to you on so you can see how it fits in the details from the backyard in the house in Cambridge. As you see special content from Europe, you're going to see me wearing it in different places because I've actually been wearing it. So let's see how it turned out. This is my Eddy Blazer from Friday Pattern Company. This is 100% wool lined with 100% cotton on the inside. It's a super nice blazer. I made a size extra large. I added a full bust adjustment to take it from a B to a C cup, generated a small dart. It does have some waist shaping with fisheye darts in the front and the back. And it's just lovely, deep V, pretty simple. Love the length at the upper thigh, covers my bottom completely. Single button closure here. These pockets are self-lined, super easy to sew. I did hand sew these on just because I felt it was going to look so much better. I did my hem on the inside by hand. Maybe you can see my dart there. It's very discreet. There's also a dart in there and some darts at the back with a vent. Deep V right here, stabilized. I interfaced a lot of the inner section of the front and also stayed tape here, so it's super firm. Nothing's gonna stretch out of shape. Facing on the inside, my lining, very nice. It is a simple one-piece sleeve. I did do a narrow shoulder adjustment, brought it in by 3/8 of an inch. I think the fit is perfect right there and super comfortable. I have great mobility. Center back seam right there. Very happy with how this fits. I love the neckline. It's just so streamlined, so simple. You can wear a blouse, a shirt, anything under there is going to be okay. It's not going to take away from the blazer. Got a simple black top underneath because that's what I have. The scarf gives it a little bit of extra interest, and I'm definitely going to wear this when the weather is mildish. At least 10 Celsius and up, I think I will be perfectly fine like this. There's one critique I have for the instructions. It's not a terrible critique, it's just a friendly critique. And when you bag out your blazer, it just told you to tuck the hem on the inside on the side seams and that's it. So it would be sort of just folded up and that's it. And I have seen that in a few instructions from different brands, but I've also seen instructions from other brands that have you actually do a hem on the inside, and that is my preferred method. So everything is hemmed actually on the inside by hand, and then we have the lining there. So I know that this is never going to come and start dangling lower. It's never going to move. My hem is perfectly fixed right there. So that's just something I like to do. I like to do the extra hem all the way around. I do it by hand on the inside, and I don't just tack the hem up on where there are seams. And I really enjoyed making it, really enjoyed bringing it along with me, and it's a super satisfying make. Now, if you want to get this pattern, you're welcome to. I recommend. I'm not an affiliate. I don't receive any commission. In fact, the owner doesn't even know I'm making this video. That's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this one. Keep your eyes open to see the Eddy Blazer out and about around Europe. And I'll see you soon with something super different. See you then. Bye.